Welcome to the Grok Shop. In this video, I'm going to talk about intelligent automatic power down for your PC. So if you're at all familiar with Windows 7 or Windows 10, you'll know how to find these power options. And there's some useful things in here, and I definitely recommend getting to know them if you don't already. So pretty much the way this works is they have these profiles. You can see I'm running what's called the balance profile here. And within each profile, there's all these settings, and definitely a lot of different settings. One problem is there's a lot of stuff based on time. You'll see, oh, after 30 minutes, put the hard drives to sleep. After 10 minutes, put the display to sleep. So there's definitely some useful settings in here, but you just don't have that fine control where, like, if you want to shut down at a certain time, only under certain conditions, like your CPU and network are not busy, you just don't have that kind of control here. So to do this kind of thing, we're going to have to go beyond what Microsoft offers in Windows. One third-party tool is called Auto Shutdown Manager, and it's really nice. If you need to manage multiple computers on a network, it's great, but it is expensive. You can get a free trial for 45 days if you want to try that out. Now there is another tool available. It's called AMP WinOFF, and it's been around for a long time, but luckily this kind of stuff hasn't changed much on Windows, so it's still pretty effective. I've personally been running this tool myself on both Windows 7 and Windows 10, and I can say it's very effective. This is the site where you can get the tool. I'll put these links below. You can either download the installer or the zip file if you prefer to run it in a kind of one-off mode. So once you run the tool, you'll be in configuration mode, which looks like this. And when you activate the tool so that it's actively ready to power down your PC, you can tell it to show a little translucent window like this. And then you can always go back to configure by right-clicking that window. So below that main action ribbon bar, we have 3 tabs of configuration. The shutdown planning is the main tab. And you can see right here in the top left, I can set a time. So that means one possible criteria would be if this time is reached, which I have set to 9:30 right now. And then you can also set intervals. I suppose I don't really use that option. And then there's user activity. You can see I have it set for if there's 30 minutes of inactivity, that'll be another possible criteria. User activity, I believe, is mainly mouse and keyboard input. It might work for other input items. You can see when I move the mouse, the timer will reset here. Next, down here we have CPU load. This is one of those things you're going to have to kind of experiment to see what's right for your computer load. But for me, I have it set to 8%. So if the CPU activity goes below 8% for a 30-second window, so for the full 30 seconds, that'll be another possible criteria. You can also have it set to average that out and whatnot if you want. And the last one's also subjective. It's network transfer. I have it enabled. And for me, I check for a combined transfer. So input and output through the network interface card to be below 9 kilobytes per second during a 5-minute period. And so if it stays below that level for 5 minutes, that also will be another criteria. Here you can see you can select different cards. You can have it just based on upstream or downstream. And then, of course, you can use average network transfer, which I have checked there. And there at the bottom, it actually shows the current transfer throughputs, which is kind of nice. Gives you an idea maybe of what you're up against. Now here in the bottom left, you can select your shutdown type. I like to hibernate because I like to pick up where I left off. I tend to keep a lot of stuff running. Some people are different. They like to get a fresh start every time. It's just according to what you like. In the bottom right down here is the multi-condition behavior logic. Pretty much it's, are you going to do an AND of all these conditions or an OR? If you're running in AND mode like I do here, that basically means all these conditions have to be met before it'll be shut down. In OR mode, any one of those conditions can be true and a shutdown can occur. Okay, on the next tab, the general options, the first 2 need to be checked so that it re-enables itself when it comes back up, and you have multi-options available for shutdown. That's if you're doing a shutdown and not for a hibernate. Okay, in the shutdown sequence area, you can have it execute a program before it shuts down. If you're from the 1990s, you can have it hang up the modem before it shuts down. Or you can have it take a screen cap. I don't use any of these options. In the other options area, you definitely want to load on Windows Startup, autosave settings, another modem option I have no idea about, ask for confirmation, show display, and you can use transparency on the little floating window if you want. You can set the transparency level, and you can have it show the shutdown type. And I would definitely have it display the warning for the maximum time, which is 95 seconds. And I don't use the snooze option, but I guess you could do that if you want. Okay, now in the last tab, administrative options, you have user settings options. So like you can set it up differently on a per user basis, or you can use the same settings for all users. You can have password protection. You can see I don't use any of this stuff. I'm the only guy using my computer. You can also have protection from people who might try to close AMP WinOFF and you don't want it to be closed. In addition to that, you can actually shut down other computers if you have permission to do so. And at the bottom down there in other options, I would definitely check that top box that says enable buttons in the shutdown warning window. And I'll explain why here in a minute. So in the little display window here, you can actually tick each one of these little icons. Like here's one for the user input. You can see when I move the mouse, it'll reset it back to 30 seconds like we set it in the settings. And the CPU you can see is actually yellow because it's violated the threshold within that window. But you can see the current activity as well, and then also the current network throughput. And those will turn yellow when they're in violation of those thresholds. Okay, for a quick demo, I'm going to switch it to OR mode here, and then I'm just going to tell it to shut down 1 minute from now. There we go. Now you can see what the warning looks like, the 95-second warning. Of course, we'll skip ahead here. So yeah, here's the Wake on LAN tool I use called Wake on LAN. And the machine we're working on is the Velocity PC. The .30 IP should go dark here. And there we go. And I'll just use the same tool to wake it back up. So now reconnecting over remote desktop. We'll see the splash again. Sometimes when it shuts down, you'll get the splash again. It's going to shut down again. That's why we give it the 95 seconds. Just hit reconfigure then and then activate. And it's usually not a problem, but under certain scenarios, you'll see that splash. So glad we were able to see it there. So now re-enabling my end condition and setting my time up the way I want it. That's how it's done. Thanks for watching.